Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Professor Shapiro and Professor Dudley, for being with us again today. We look forward to your testimony later and talking about some of these bills. And I thank Chairman Johnson because he's made regulatory reform a priority of the committee, and we're going to be talking about a number of different bills today. A couple of them I've been involved with. I'm the author of the Independent Agency Regulatory Analysis Act, which we'll be talking about. My co-sponsor is Mark Warner, and I appreciate the fact that the chairman just included his statement in the record. I have it here. It's a very good statement about the need for this legislation. This has been bipartisan. It's been something that we've been working on for a few years now, really trying to build on some of the President's own comments about the need to expand the regulatory analysis to independent agencies. And I know both of you will be addressing that. I read your comments on it. I'm also the author of the Regulatory Accountability Act, which is broader legislation. It's not part of the discussion today because it's not one of these bills that has been scheduled for markup yet, but a lot of the ideas in it are in other legislation we'll talk about today, and I'm hopeful we can move that forward as well. The independent agency bill is, again, common sense, I think. It's part of a recommendation from the President's Jobs Council. It's something that affirms the authority of the President to extend to independent agencies some of these same regulatory analysis and review regimes that governs rulemaking by the executive agencies, again, consistent with the President's own comments and executive order. It was originally on the markup for the end of July. We decided to postpone it in order to address some minor concerns. A few of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, including Senator Heitkamp, as he is here with us today, and Senator McCaskill, wanted to have a chance to further review some specific aspects of the legislation, and they have been very supportive of the intent of the legislation. I think we've made great progress. I think we're on about to use a football analogy, the 1 yard line now. We're definitely in the red zone, and I thank both Senator McCaskill and Senator Heitkamp for their support and work on this. Hopefully we'll be able to get it over the finish line. The independent agency bill is something that presidents of both parties have talked about over the years, and again, consistent with this notion that our regulators who are independent, like the SEC, and I know you use that as an example, Professor Dudley, in your comments today, CFTC, others are issuing more and more regulations, more and more major regulations, and yet aren't subject to the same executive orders. 4 years ago, President Obama issued Executive Order 13579, saying that they should comply. Of course, he doesn't have the legal authority to be able to require them to comply because they're independent by definition. Therefore, codifying that through the work we do here in this committee is necessary. Unfortunately, the kind of analysis that we've seen with the executive branch agencies is just simply not being done on a consistent basis by the independent agencies. Here's some statistics worth repeating that we'll hear, I think, later today. Recent OMB report, not one of the 18 major rules issued by an independent agency in 2013 was based on a complete quantified cost-benefit analysis. The same was true in 2012, where there are 21 major rules, none with a complete cost-benefit analysis. And by the way, you can go back to 2009 and see the same record. Recent study commissioned by the Administrative Conference of the United States reported similar findings out of the major rules issued by independent agencies in fiscal year 2012, the last year of which they analyzed. Only one rule was supported by a partial quantification of benefits, and only 6 rules included a partial quantification of costs apart from paperwork burdens, which is a narrow subset of the total cost. In its FY 2014 report to Congress, OIRA wrote, "It would be highly desirable to obtain better information on the benefits and costs of rules issued by independent regulatory agencies. The absence of such information is a continued obstacle to transparency. It might also have adverse effects on public policy," end quote. That's Obama administration OIRA. So what does this bill do? It affirms the authority of the President to extend to independent agencies the same regulatory analysis and review regime that governs rulemaking by executive agencies. It provides that independent agencies may be required to assess the costs and benefits of a major rule. It would have independent agencies submit economically significant rules to OIRA for review. OIRA would then assess the quality of the agency's cost-benefit analysis. So again, for major rules only, they would go to OIRA, and OIRA would do their analysis. The Independent Agency Act has been endorsed by a bipartisan group of former OIRA administrators from the Clinton, Reagan, Bush administrations, a bipartisan group of former and current heads of independent agencies, including scholars of regulation and administrative law, the ABA, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, National Association of Manufacturers. One concern that some of my colleagues had on the other side of the aisle was that this bill might result in a delay of rulemaking. I have agreed to accept Senator Heitkamp's language that would clarify that OIRA has 90 days to review the agency's cost-benefit analysis, and if that review is not completed in 90 days, the independent agency would be deemed to have met the requirement for review, and any OIRA analysis issued after those 90 days would not be included in the rulemaking record, so that puts a deadline on them. Another concern was that the analysis this bill lays out might be duplicative. Senator Heitkamp and I are working on language to ensure that agencies that are already engaged in this type of analysis are not required to reinvent the wheel when they submit cost-benefit analysis to OIRA, and she may want to talk more about that later. I look forward to continuing to work with her, Senator McCaskill, and others on the committee, including Senator Carper, who's been a supporter of this notion of being sure you have consistency. And I appreciate that Senator Heitkamp and Senator McCaskill are committed to actually getting this to a markup in early October. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, on the Regulatory Accountability Act, Senator King, Senator Collins, and I have recently reintroduced that bill. This is something we've worked on for 3.5, 4 years. It's a comprehensive bill, again, drawing on some of the existing tools in the administrative process to basically reform the Administrative Procedure Act for the first time in decades in a significant way to ensure we have a less costly, more stable regulatory environment for job creation. That bill, by the way, is supported by 80 different trade groups, including the Chamber of Commerce, Business Roundtable, National Association of Manufacturers, many academics and former public officials. So I appreciate all the good work, again, that's being done, Senator Langford, Senator Johnson, and others, and I hope we can move forward with the legislation before us today with a markup and then be able to actually begin to make a difference in the way that Senator Carper talked about. There's no inconsistency with having a clean environment, a safe workplace, and having a good economy, but it does require us to go through this cost-benefit analysis in a rigorous way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you.